Canary Street Press and HarlequinAudio present Save the Date by Allison Raskin. This is the author. To my parents, for helping me get up off the floor. A note from the author. Here's where I admit that the idea of Save the Date is based on my own life. After getting engaged in May 2020, my ex-fiancé announced he was leaving me 6 months later because something was missing, and I haven't seen him since. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I also felt like an idiot. How could I not have seen this coming? I'd been giving relationship advice on the internet and through my podcast for years. I was in the process of getting a master's degree in psychology. I even had a book set to come out in 2022 about the intersection of dating and mental health. I was supposed to be an expert in love, and yet I had no idea my partner didn't love me anymore. Mortifying, and quite a slap in the face. As I sat in my parents' house, editing my ex out of my book, Overthinking About You, I floated above my body and realized how ridiculous and objectively hilarious the situation I found myself in was. Not only was I faced with having to completely rebuild my life, but I also had to actively cut sentences about how wonderful and healthy our relationship was from my own manuscript. My private mistakes were a part of my public life, making them even harder to ignore. I had to delete my engagement announcement from my Instagram and replace it with an "I got left" announcement. Quickly after the breakup, my dad started making jokes about how he still had the wedding planner if I wanted to find another guy to marry. And then my mom genuinely asked me if there were any guys from my past I could date instead. They both seemed to think that I could simply sub in a new person and continue with my married life on schedule. And while I didn't think this was a good idea for a real person, I thought it was a perfect idea for a book. But for the book to work, it had to be about more than wanting to save face and save money. It had to tackle the all-too-common conundrum of not wanting someone else's unilateral decision to interfere with your life's trajectory. Because as much as I grieved the loss of my fiancé, I grieved the loss of my future more. I was ready to be engaged. I was ready to be married. And to be thrust back into an earlier life stage didn't seem fair. It made me feel powerless. So, while Emma's motivation might appear ridiculous at first, in reality, she is fighting for the life she wants and deserves. She is taking the power back. She just happens to be going about it in a strange way. I might not have subbed in a new groom myself, but I did eventually get my happy ending. And I wanted Emma to get hers too, to show that you don't have to give up on love just because one person gave up on you. Not to spoil anything, but this is a romance after all. Chapter 1. I just don't understand what happened. Emma Moskowitz lay face down in her parents' office as they talked above her inert body. The carpet irritated her sensitive cheek, but getting a rash was the least of her worries at the moment. She was used to rashes. What she wasn't used to, at least not yet, was the staggering pain of betrayal. He didn't explain why he was doing this? Her father Alan asked for what had to have been the 5th time in as many minutes. Instead of verbally responding, Emma let out a long groan to signal that she wasn't yet in the mood to psychoanalyze why her carefully planned life was falling apart. She was still very much in the "maybe I could just lie here for a few years and then die" stage of grieving. That stage wasn't talked about nearly enough. It was important. What did she say? Alan looked to Emma's mother, Debbie, for an interpretation of what could best be described as an animalistic, guttural moan. "I don't think she wants to talk about it just yet," Debbie offered, despite knowing this explanation likely wasn't going to appease her type A husband. "Can I have some water?" Emma interjected.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?